Honorable Speaker, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers and Assistant Ministers, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen who are watching on live on the Parliament channel. Isambula Vinaka and a very good afternoon to you all. I rise to respond to His Excellency's most gracious speech, which sets a very clear roadmap for this Parliament and the future of our beloved nation. In his address, His Excellency, amongst others, outlined the opportunities before us that we should capitalize on, the challenges we must navigate and conquer upon, and the collective responsibility we all share in shaping the economic, social, and political landscape of Fiji. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency the President highlighted the need for national unity, transformational leadership, integrity, dialogue, and constructive debate. Also, economic growth and diversification, strengthening our independent state institutions, respect for democracy and fundamental principles, and building social cohesion for sustainable and inclusive development agenda. Under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister Sithiwe Nabuka, the coalition government has restored democracy, media freedom, and respect for human rights. The culture of fear, intimidation, and weaponization of state institutions have ended. Our people are free of dictatorial leadership. The coalition government has brought about a new style of leadership, which is focused on inclusive governance based on genuine dialogue and consultation, participatory decision-making where everyone's voice is heard, and leadership that respects democratic principles and fundamental values. This has set a strong social, political foundation for lasting prosperity. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the economic policies, the coalition government has made significant progress over the past 2 years to revive the economy, bring back fiscal sustainability and financial discipline to ensure that prosperity is shared and long-lasting. Our economy has rebounded to pre-pandemic levels in 2023 after the economic decline induced by the COVID pandemic and years of reckless macroeconomic and fiscal management. We have recorded 2 consecutive years of economic growth, with the economy growing by 7.5% in 2023 and 3.8% in 2024. Mr. Speaker, so as stated by His Excellency, we are on track for a 3rd year of consecutive growth, with the economy forecast to grow by 3.4% in 2025. The first 2 months of economic data has been strong, and we are confident that this growth momentum will continue. The next 2 years also look positive, and we are working towards lifting Fiji's growth outcomes to 4 to 5% and envisages in the National Development Plan. But to get there, Mr. Speaker, sir, we all need to work harder. We need to streamline business approval processes to unshackle the impediments that to investments and growth. Private sector needs to be incentivized and supported to be on the driving seat. Productivity has to be lifted up across the economy, and government will have to continue to provide the enabling environment. Apart from this, Mr. Speaker, sir, we need to diversify the economy. While tourism numbers are at an all-time high supporting growth, we must not become complacent. Our economic future cannot be overly reliant on single industry, as we have seen during the pandemic. We need to nurture and grow other high potential sectors, such as business, processing, process outsourcing, agricultural value addition and exports, light manufacturing, and other areas where we have inherent competitive advantages. This diversification is important to create more employment, drive exports, generate foreign exchange, and grow the economic pie. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm pleased to hear the revitalizing of Fiji's shipbuilding sector and the review of the 6 agricultural-based public sector enterprises such as AMA, food processors, Fiji Rice, Fiji Coconut Millers, Fiji Meat Industry Board, and the Angara Pastoral Company. This is to boost productivity and efficiency, improve operations, and reduce reliance on government, and overall contribute to GDP growth now and in the future. This will also minimize write-offs, converting debt to equity, and endless grants without value that happened in the past. There are also risks, Mr. Speaker, sir. Our economy remains vulnerable to climate change and intense natural disasters. We are exposed to global shocks and international economic developments, including increasing commodity prices, supply chain complications, and geopolitical repercussions. On fiscal responsibility and debt management, Mr. Speaker, sir, this is another issue raised by His Excellency. The coalition government has focused on restoring fiscal discipline, reducing waste, promoting value for money, and prudently managing taxpayers' resources to give the best to our people. When we assume office, Fiji's debt stood at 90% of GDP. With a strong rebound in the economy and the decisive reduction in the fiscal deficit in the last 2 budgets, supported by tax reforms and expenditure restraint, we have managed to reduce our debt to GDP ratio to around 78%. This is a 12 percentage point reduction in 2 years, and this achievement has been welcomed by our international partners like IMF, World Bank, and now credit rating agencies, who acknowledge the political will and commitment to fiscal prudence and discipline. With the planned reductions in fiscal deficits moving forward, we will continue to maintain our debt on a downward path and a path to sustainability. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I've said before, the years of reckless fiscal management and debt build-up by the previous government had left no option for the coalition government but to take immediate tax reforms to raise additional revenues for government and close the fiscal gap. Had we not done that, we were on a path of a fiscal disaster, as our debt levels had become unsustainable, and we would have ultimately ended up in a major fiscal distress, causing irreparable damage and enormous pain to our people with large tax increases and expenditure cuts. We had to take the decisive steps. However, it is unfortunate that a few on the opposite side are trying to mislead the people by saying that the tax reform should not have been pursued. These were the same people that were part of a debt build brigade and supported the irresponsible fiscal management that almost brought the country to its knees. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the government budget and the major expenditures, so in the last 2 budgets, we have also carefully crafted policies to support our people. We maintain zero VAT on 21 items and also added prescribed medicine to at least 22 items. For those who are vulnerable, we had increased the social welfare allowance by 25% for people above the age of 70 and by 15% for those below 70. We increased the government pensions and aftercare allowances by 15%. We had also increased the allowances for Turangani Koros, maternity cleaners, Turangani Abusa, provincial administrators, and district advisory councillors. We introduced the $200 per child back to school support for all families below an annual income of $50,000, assisting over 200,000 students continuously for the past 3 rounds, paying over $180 million. We wrote off $650 million in TEL's debt for over 53,000 tertiary students, freeing them from the shackles of debt when they start working. We provided over $85 million in pay increases for over 38,000 civil servants who were deprived of a salary increase since 2017. Salary increase ranges from 7 to 20%. We had taken a bold step to increase the minimum wage rate to $5 an hour, an increase of 25%. This increase in the minimum wage rate to $5 was based on a comprehensive review by a panel of experts that had undertaken a thorough analysis and consultation with employers, union, and other stakeholders. We paid the highest ever sugarcane price of around $102 per ton cane for 2023 season. For 2022, we paid $91.88. Both were higher than the $85 guaranteed price. We are paying our rice farmers $1,000 of rice paddy, and almost all of our cash crop farmers, including dalo and cassavas, are receiving much higher prices for their crops. So we are continuing with our social support measures, Mr. Speaker, sir, like free education, transport assistance, free water, subsidized electricity for those below 80,000. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, sir, we've allocated $150.5 million for various scholarships and grants administered by the tertiary scholarship and loan services. A sum of $13.5 million has been allocated towards the formalization of 5 informal settlements, which includes Nepani, Rewanga, Dawilevu, Wanimbuku, and Tabakumbu. Great emphasis is placed on enhancing access to clean drinking water and sanitation, and government is continuously investing in upgrading water and wastewater treatment plant distribution system and rural water projects to address these issues. Mr. Speaker, sir, the coalition has also proved that we respect the right of our workers. We have restored the FNPF contribution rate. We have restored the FNPF pension rate for pensioners who were subjected to unjust pension reduction in 2011. A sum of $4 million was allocated to reinstate pension payments for pensioners that opted with little option for reduced pension rate following the 2011 reforms. Government has successfully reached a resolution to end the longest strike ever in the world, which has lasted over 33 years, where 368 Portucola workers' miners were allocated $25,000 each, costing government $9.2 million. All these measures, Mr. Speaker, sir, will build the trust between the government and workers, which had been destroyed in the past. Mr. Speaker, sir, as stated earlier, infrastructure investment is key to drive growth. The coalition government has also inherited infrastructure that was neglected for years, with many state assets beyond repair. We need to fix this, and this will take time and cost. The dilapidated state of infrastructure in health, education, water, and roads, Mr. Speaker, sir, was all too evident.
Order.
And it is this government which is now investing and improving those infrastructures. Mr. Speaker, sir, still on the water. So while we are adding additional capacity through the Viria Water project, we need to reduce the leak at the same time. Apart from water infrastructure, urgent attention is needed in the wastewater area as well. Again, government through the ADB is working on a major project to upgrade and increase the capacity of the Kinoya sewage plant and improve the environment compliance. In partnership with the Australian government and JICA, we are expediting the Nandi flood alleviation projects, which will provide significant relief to the villagers, hotel owners and operators, property owners, farmers, and the people of Nandi, who have often succumbed to the effects of severe flooding. The project is in advanced stages currently. Similarly, we have commenced work on replacing 4 critical bridges in Viti level, which will be made climate and disaster resilient. These 4 bridges are being funded by the ADB and the World Bank in the form of concessional loan and grants. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are making progress in the health sector. The master plan for the CWM hospital is ready with 27 sub-projects identified by the Australian government for implementation. We are working with World Bank and ADB on the first phase with a focus on making CWM regional referral hospital. The Indian government as well has also approved the construction for a new 100-bed super specialty hospital. The Indian technical team was here last week, and it expected that construction will start in the next 3 to 4 months. Apart from this, Mr. Speaker, sir, there are major discussions and technical work undertaken on the potential relocation of the Suva port, which has reached capacity to support Fiji's future growth and development. A major investment in the relocation of the Suva port is critical. Last week, Mr. Speaker, sir, we had called for a development partner roundtable, sharing government priorities and coordinating development partner financing in a holistic manner to support high-impact national projects. While financing seems not to be a major issue, we need to lift up our capacity to implement those projects. Mr. Speaker, sir, we need to strengthen the civil servant, which is one of our biggest challenges in recent years. From the loss of skilled personnel in the civil servant due to migration and recruitment by the private sector and other regional and international organizations. Mr. Speaker, sir, at the same time, government recognizes that it is crucial to enhance efficiency and productivity in the civil service through digitalization to develop a modern and high-performing civil service that is responsive to government priorities and efficient service delivery. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to highlight briefly on the issue of drugs, particularly due to the rise in drug-related crimes and its consequent social impact. As a strategy, government is fighting against illicit drugs through a whole-of-nation approach. This means addressing the surge of synthetic drugs, particularly methamphetamine, which poses a substantial threat to both public health and societal safety. At this juncture, Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to commend the Fiji Police Force for their relentless effort in tackling this issue. However, more needs to be done. Mr. Speaker, sir, the path ahead is clear. We must sustain economic growth, manage our debt wisely, invest in infrastructure, and strengthen our civil service. We must continue to engage constructively with our development partners, embrace new financial system, and remain steadfast in our commitment to good governance and transparency. As His Excellency reminded us, progress is not merely about enhancing what already exists, but advancing towards what will be. Let us move forward with determination, unity, and a shared commitment to building a stronger, more resilient, and more prosperous Fiji. Thank you, and may God bless Fiji. Naka.